Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously intense, high-stakes moment from the Mahabharata. We're looking specifically at Section 6. It's this incredible sequence where a powerful king has a profound realization which triggers a desperate diplomatic mission. We're talking about a violent collision of family dynamics, state politics, and deep, deep human regret. Honestly, the themes of leadership anxiety and fractured families in this ancient text feel just as relevant today as they did back then. Let's get right into it.
We're jumping straight into the deep end here with literally life or death stakes. The narrative opens with King Dhritarashtra issuing this frantic command to his advisor. He says, "Seek him, O wise one, and bring him hither, else, O Sanjaya, I will lay down my life." Wow. So he's actually threatening to die if his banished brother isn't brought back. This isn't just your standard royal decree, It's a total ultimatum born out of absolute panic, and it perfectly sets the urgent tone for the rest of our story. So, Section 1, the king's regret, a sudden collapse. Let's take a look at how a monarch known for his profound wisdom unravels so incredibly fast.
The text paints this vivid, honestly shocking picture. It describes the powerful King Dhritarashtra approaching the hall of state. He's totally surrounded by monarchs waiting on him, and then, right there at the door, he suddenly collapses. Just entirely senseless, faints dead away. Can you imagine the sheer shock rippling through that royal court? The supreme ruler physically crumpling under the invisible, crushing weight of his own sudden realization? It's a huge moment. Now, what's really fascinating here is the duality of his regret. The text tells us exactly what's racing through his mind right before he hits the floor. Yes, he's burning with this genuine brotherly grief and affection for his brother Vidura. But it's not just pure sentimentality. He is terrified. He suddenly realizes he's lost Vidura's immense intelligence in matters of war and peace. And on top of that, he's struck by a deep fear of the Pandavas growing their political power in the future. It's this wild mix of personal heartbreak and harsh political reality. It's basically a very ancient, extreme case of what we'd call severe executive burnout or leadership anxiety today.
After regaining consciousness and literally weeping bitterly, he rises from the ground. And he admits right out loud to his advisor Sanjaya that his brother Vidura was completely innocent. He confesses that his brother, a man of immeasurable intelligence, had never committed even the slightest transgression. Instead, Vidura was expelled for one reason: the king's own wretched anger. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't just anger. It was a complete, unfiltered admission of guilt from a sovereign ruler, which is pretty rare to see.
Moving right along to Section 2, Sanjaya's mission, a desperate journey. Because a sudden emotional collapse like that demands instant action.
Driven by the king's stark threat to end his own life, Sanjaya accepts the mission without a single second of hesitation. Hearing the king's desperate words, Sanjaya simply expresses his agreement, says so be it, and heads straight into the wild. He journeys without loss of time directly toward the Kamyaka woods. He knows full well that the very life of the king hangs entirely on the speed of this diplomatic mission. The clock is absolutely ticking.
Which brings us to Section 3, Peace in the Forest, a striking contrast. And as you'll see, Sanjaya's destination looks vastly different from the court he just left behind.
This part of the text brilliantly illustrates an extreme dichotomy. On one side, we have Hastinapura Palace, chaotic, tense, with a panicked king weeping and fainting all over the place. On the other side, the Kamyaka woods. Here, Sanjaya finds the exiled Yudhishthira, clad in simple deerskin, but sitting completely at peace. The visual contrast between the tormented victor back in the royal palace and the serene victim out in the forest is just incredibly striking.
Let's look a bit closer at the exact scene Sanjaya walks into. Because despite being in exile, the Pandavas are absolutely not broken. Yudhishthira is seated calmly with Vidura, surrounded by thousands of brahmanas. He's guarded by his powerful brothers, Bhima, Arjuna, and the twins. In fact, the text specifically likens Yudhishthira to Purandra, or Indra, among the celestials. And when Sanjaya approaches, he's received with immense dignity and due respect by the brothers. They show true nobility in their distress, prioritizing courtesy even toward the messenger of the very king who literally just exiled them.
So, after the usual polite inquiries about everyone's welfare are out of the way, Sanjaya gets right down to business. He delivers the urgent message, pleading with Vidura to return and save the king, urging him to literally revive the king. He also respectfully asks for Yudhishthira's permission, and Yudhishthira, ever the paragon of virtue, graciously grants it. With that permission secured, the intelligent Vidura, who the text describes as ever attached to his relatives, agrees to pack up and head back to the city named after the elephant.
All right, Section 4. A brother returns home, reconciliation. This rapid physical journey we're tracking perfectly mirrors a much deeper emotional one.
The text maps out what is essentially a rapid sequence of emotional whiplash. Think about it. We go from a wretched, angry expulsion to a physical collapse of regret to a desperate messenger's journey, culminating finally in Vidura's return. When Vidura approaches, Dhritarashtra's just completely overwhelmed. The king claims that during Vidura's absence, he was sleepless day and night, feeling absolutely lost on earth.
And the physical and verbal reconciliation that follows? It is intensely intimate, especially for a formal royal court. The text describes the great king Dhritarashtra taking Vidura right onto his lap and smelling his head. Now, that might sound unusual to us, but it's a traditional gesture of deep paternal or elder brotherly affection. He speaks directly to him, begging, "Forgive me, O sinless one, the words in which thou wert addressed by me." It's a total surrender of royal ego, all for the sake of brotherly love. Now for Section 5, the virtue of forgiveness. Moral philosophy. This brings us to the core philosophy of this entire narrative.
Vidura forgives him immediately. He tells the king, "I have forgiven thee. Thou art my superior, worthy of the highest reverence." But he doesn't just stop at forgiveness. He drops this profound piece of moral philosophy to explain his previous actions and his loyalty to the Pandavas. He says, "All virtuous men are instinctively partial towards those that are distressed. This, O king, is scarcely the result of deliberation."
Let's break down exactly what he means by this, because it's absolutely crucial. Vidura is defining what we might call instinctive partiality. He's explaining that his loyalty to the exiled Pandavas was not a betrayal of the king's own sons. In fact, he states clearly that Dhritarashtra's sons are just as dear to him as the sons of Pandu, but because the Pandavas are currently in severe distress, his heart naturally yearns after them. It's an automatic, empathetic response to suffering, not some calculated political move. True virtue, he argues, instinctively rushes to the aid of the vulnerable.
This incredibly powerful sequence concludes with a beautiful restoration of balance. Addressing each other in these gentle apologetic speeches, the two illustrious brothers finally find peace again. The massive rift caused by anger and state politics is completely healed. And it's healed through vulnerability, quick diplomatic action, and a shared understanding of this profound moral philosophy. They are, as the text notes, finally greatly happy.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought drawn directly from Vidura's philosophy. It's a question to deeply consider about the true nature of justice and loyalty. Does true loyalty mean blindly supporting your family or faction in all matters? Or does it mean instinctively standing with those who are distressed, even when it puts you at odds with your own kin? It's a complex moral puzzle from an ancient text, but man, it remains incredibly relevant today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this deeper look sparked your curiosity to learn even more.